Hey, how's it going? My name is Chime, and today I'm going to be running through the Melodic Riddim Volume 1 sample pack we just released. It's me in collaboration with Ace Aura. There's a lot of new sound design techniques floating around for how to infuse tonality and melodic content into dubstep in general, and yeah, that's what this pack is all about. Plus, there's a ton of other samples just from us in general that kind of fit more into the bro step category. But yeah, let's get right into it. I suppose we'll start off with basses to give you a flavor of what the pack is like. Like, these are a really good example, I would say. And of course, because these are playing chords, everything's labeled as the actual chord rather than, you know, just the root note. For everything that's just one tone, you just get one note. But yeah, this is the sort of thing that I feel like you won't be able to get from another pack, is these kind of very chord-based dubstep sounds, I suppose. But yeah, let me just scroll through a bunch of these. A lot of the pack is brand new stuff that I've made for the pack, but also I've snuck in a bunch of stuff from my own original tunes and remixes and everything, right? So you might recognize that from a certain Disciple release, for example. Yeah, and it's not just dubsteppy stuff. I've just kind of thrown everything in there. So we've got like a million different notes of 808s there. We got some wobby stuff. We got some, some dirty stuff as well. But I'll show you a way of adding tonality to these kind of sounds a little bit later on. Yeah, I'll just kind of go through a couple of these. Big fan of the car alarm there. I've tried to get as creative as possible with the names as well, so you end up with Cream Yoink in D sharp and that sort of thing. So there's lots of that. Cupcake Swipes. Eliminator. I'm sure we can all figure out why that's called Eliminator. Yeah, so we've also got, like, when there's a kind of a reference to a track of mine, I make sure to put it in. So you've got like the Face Punch Wob. There it is. The Experience Point Screech. Yeah, so there's like a bunch of this stuff. There's a lot of screechy stuff in there as well, because that's what I end up liking to make a lot. And these kind of very layered up sounds like this Hyper Beam. These growls are a lot of fun, and yeah, you can combine them with some other samples in the pack. There's a bunch of the sounds. Yeah, also I've got, like, in cases where, like, the bass was used in a chord sequence hitting multiple notes, like these Our Flame Wobs, I've included each of them, because the harmonics within that wob sound is different for each chord, etc. So there's a lot of, like, just drag and drop, or as Phase One would say, drop and drag for some reason, samples that you can just chuck into a drop. But there's also these kind of more layering kind of style sounds. Like that, where, you know, you could use that as the full sound, or you could low pass that and use that underneath, or yeah, low pass it and use it as a sub with a little bit more movement or that sort of thing. There's a ton of stuff in here. You'll have to kind of check out for yourself, because I can't realistically go through everything myself. Let's move on to the loops. Yeah, just a few more things. That's quite a prominent one from the demo. This, you can see I really had some fun with the naming here. So yeah, there's kind of a mix of, like, you know, sort of more typical, like, bro step stuff, but also some of this very new school tonal stuff, like this 4-dimensional hyper growl from Soda World. that sort of thing. Also, yeah, more stuff like that you could, you could chop up and pitch and make your own bass line out of. Yeah, more kind of resonant things like. And then you've got like a very classic, like massive sound. So some of these I've labeled with like years, like where they're from. There's like some stuff from 2017, for example, that I've labeled like that. Basically, a bunch of old tunes have samples in here, and plenty of the new ones as well. So let's move on to some other stuff. Let's go into the drums. So you might see an interesting category here. We got beatbox. This is another thing that I struggled to find on Splice, and I wanted to make myself. There's a few beatbox things out there, but I wanted some really nice, like punchy beatbox drums to use in the context of like harder dance music. So you've got like these kind of snares. And yes, that is me going. And you got kicks. Inward K's, that thing. So there's a bunch of one-shots there, but also there's loops. There you go. That's a typical dubstep beat. I also threw in some like break beats as well. You could slow them down or speed them up or whatever. But moving on, we've got all our regular drums. There's all the kicks. Yeah, we got snares and we also got clap snares, and I've put them in a separate folder in this case because typically clap snares you want to layer with a kick, whereas a regular snare you want to just keep on its own. Yeah, there's a bunch of those, and I found that they all layer really nicely over the kicks that we just listened to. One thing I like to do is have a separate channel for the kick when it is layered with the clap snare, and just take a little bit of the high end off and, soften a bit of the transient on it. And yeah, usually sits really nicely. The snares, we got a lot of like just typical dubstep snares, as clean and as nice as I could get them. But also we got some acoustic-y bits and some kind of trappy stuff down here. So I'll give you a flavor of those. Oh, and there's a little chordy thing as well. December flashbacks there. Basically, if you've liked any of my snares in any of my tunes for the past 8 years, it'll be in here. These mega verb ones are a lot of fun as well. There's a milk bottle snare. And yeah, there's some more tonal ones as well, like these poppers. Yeah, so that's the kicks and snares. You've got your cymbals folder here. We got loads of crashes, or a handful of crashes, and bunch of hats. Lots of different kind of flavors. Open hats as well. You know the score. We got some fills. Bunch of fills, and then we got some drum loops as well. Some of these are from specific tracks where I've just like exported all the drums from it, and it sounds like. And then we've got some that are just the kicks and claps, so you can just kind of add in your own top layers. That sort of thing. We've also got like some breaks. That's a kind of Prodigy style break that I spent a lot of time on. So I was like, that's going in. We've also got top loops, and they're called snare helpers here because they have like a fizz on the offbeat that help give like a little bit more splash to your snare. And it kind of fades in as a regular snare would fade out to give it that splash without like getting in the way of it. So there's a bunch of those. And there's some kind of like more shuffly stuff. Find those super helpful for like that old school kind of like UK dubstep style. Let's go into the effects. So I've barely made rises in my life up until this pack, and I didn't realize how fun they could actually be, especially using some of the recordings I made for the pack. So an example is like Magic Twinkle. I mean, that's kind of what I think of when I think of a chime riser. It's literally like a wind chime rising. So yeah, a lot of fun to make these, but also there's some like chip tune stuff as well. Kind of bit crush thing. Bubbly stuff. More typical like sweeps. More fun stuff like that. Yeah, so there's a bunch of these. There's, you know, good names like Nintendo Panic Attack. You know, for example. Yeah, so we got some impacts in here as well. Just kind of handy for like the end of a drop sequence. And the other category is actually a lot of fun as well. We got ASMR sprinkles that are super stereo wide. I mean, that's just a fun sound. That one in particular is from like the background of the B section to Soda World. You can do some crazy stuff just pitching up and down and adding like tonality to that sound. I've basically written a whole tune based around that sample and cutting it up and doing different things with it. ASMR dubstep coming soon. Next up, yeah, we got some chiptune stuff. Some explosions. Yeah. And some weird like experimental stuff. Like this Computer Ripples was made by using, I think, like 10 denoisers on literally just the background noise from this microphone, and then some other bits and pieces, and it ended up sounding like this. So that's fun. That's literally silence you're listening to. Yeah, and then we got a bunch of these corrupted Game Boy things. These are actual samples from a corrupted Game Boy. It's like a Pokemon save file that's gone wrong and then just mangled to all hell even further. There's a bit of a taste of that. And yeah, we got some other kind of like bits and pieces. Some pops. This reverser into snare thing I use on basically all my tunes. Same with that kick meaty thing. That's what it sounds like if you're trapped in an NES. Twinkle textures. There's a lot more twinkle to come. So let's get on to the synths, I suppose. Leads, we've got a bunch of stuff, just single notes that go on for bloody ages, so you can just chuck them into a sampler and get going, basically. Really fun making ARPs out of these, or just using them for layers for your own leads, or just using them for straight up leads. Oh, so that is actually a recording of me with like a ton of distortion and reverb and stuff. We got this kind of thing. Yeah, we got a bunch of like chiptune stuff. That's a classic chime lead I've been using since about 2014 or something. It's in there. You can get it. Some coins, you know. A bunch of different stuff to play around with. Next up, we got chords, pads, and ambience. Mostly just softer synth stuff. These are a lot of fun to make. couple different keys here, but mostly sticking to C minor because that's typically, you know, you drag and drop samples into a sampler and it's already on C. So, and F minor because it's a very commonly used dubstep key. But we got a couple of pads, like these long pads are basically like, I think one of these is like 1.5 minutes long. That kind of stuff where you feel like you're seeing into the depths of another dimension. Next up, Twinkles, Arps, and Complexes. This is quite a big folder because these are my favorite kind of sounds ever, really. These very quick changes in timbre kind of feel a little glitchy, that sort of thing. I call them complexes because they're kind of like complextro sounds. So yeah, like an example. That sort of thing, right? So yeah, there's a bunch of those, but also a bunch of just very short textures you can just use to kind of make your own complex sequences of synths. So bunch of really fun stuff in there. And also like, I did some like chiptune recreations of some like classic sound effects and made them sound magical. Like this cosmic fireball and this cosmic pipe. Yeah, so there's a bunch of fun stuff in there. More ASMR. Stuff that's just super fun to cut up and play around with. So this next folder is what needs a bit of an explanation, right? So convolution reverb impulses. This is kind of what they sound like. So they're basically like the same kind of thing as twinkle complexes or whatever, but they're specifically designed to be used with convolution reverb. So I need to kind of demonstrate this. So I've got a bass here that's also from the pack. There it is. This is in F. And if you grab a convolution reverb plugin, in my case it's Space Designer in FL, it'll be Fruity Convolver. In Ableton, I think it's just called Convolution Reverb. But these samples you can plug into Convolution Reverb to add tonality to whatever the hell you want. So let's go for Existential Pad F minor. Let's go for that one. Yeah, if we just cut this down a little bit here, you'll notice this is before. There we go. And this is what it sounds like after. Very cool. So we're adding that really nice like chordy sound from this sample, and it's following what our bass is doing. So that's kind of the best way to demonstrate what these do. And you'll see that there's quite a few copies, so it's like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. This is usually because it's actually a chord sequence, so you can input a different impulse for each chord in the sequence and apply it to whatever you want. So like, so you can tell that that's a chord sequence with different notes for each, but it's the same texture each time. Let's try a different one here with this wob. Yeah, this thing. Yeah, might need to like take the sub out of that one, but that's pretty cool. Let's pitch it up an octave. Yeah, it's just a super easy way of introducing tonality to any bass sound, and you can kind of tailor it how you want with the dry and wet. But it doesn't have to be, you know, this could be drums that we're applying to this too as well. So let me just grab, I guess, a quick drum loop from here. Yeah, if we go all the way wet on that, you can see how you can so easily get these lovely colorful melodic rhythm textures from basically anything. So yeah, that's what the convolution impulses are for. Ace has already got a bunch of those as well on his side of the pack. Yeah, and then we got some synth loops here. We've got a ton of stuff. Some of them are like layers for, you know, a typical like quarter note pattern, like where you can layer that over a bass to kind of add some nice like sparkle to the top of it. And also there's a lot more complex stuff as well in here. There's a bunch of these, and the way I made these was just throwing a ton of samples that I'd already made for the pack into a sampler and really messing with all the parameters to the point where this would just spit out randomly a new like glitch thing each time. That's why there's 16 of them, because these are like my favorite ones out of that kind of randomized machine I made. And just other little bits and pieces like some bubbly stuff, ups, super saws, pretty mixed bag there. Now we're moving on to instruments. Some of these I've recorded myself. For example, this is an actual orchestral chime that I have like downstairs that I've recorded and created a continuous texture out of, but also we have like glissandos. Just really nice, like solid recordings of those. We've also got quite a rare set of chimes called koshis, and these come in different elements. And each of the different elements have a kind of different chord that's hit and a different flavor to the way they sound. So they are some of the nicest like chimes around. So yeah, I had to get a bunch of recordings of those. Basically everything else that goes ding in my house has made its way into here. And also like a wine glass thing, that sort of thing. Oh, and I also made pads out of the koshi chimes too. Bit of a relaxing situation in between drops, you know, that sort of thing. So that's the instruments, and we got Foley, just kind of a weird mixed bag of stuff, but I have actually found that a bunch of these layers are quite useful. So like a lot of apple crunching, because that's just a very satisfying sound, and I've found that actually if you layer that with basses, it sounds pretty crispy. We got some mechanical clicks. A bunch of that is actually from this thing right here, just the keys on there. Yeah, we got lots of plastic crunch sounds. Again, really nice textures to add on to just like a little bit of fizzle to the high end of a bass, or, you know, you could combine that with the convolution reverb impulses and make new textures out of that. And finally, we got vocals. You've got me sounding like a girl. Yeah. Kind of. There's a bunch of just like vocal chops, you know what they're like. And I tried to, in this case, like this one goes from A sharp to F, so I've kind of tried to indicate where I can, what notes are being hit, and that sort of thing. There's also like layered choirs I made in there that's not appearing in my folder for some reason. We got a bunch of chants that are generally good for like the offbeat or like a pre-drop sort of thing. Damn. That sort of thing. Go. Here we go. Lots of like me jumping, in case, you know, you're making a video game and I'm the protagonist and you need the jump sound. It's there. You go download it. Let's go. Yeah, a bunch of that stuff. Oh, I like these watts as well. What? We just got the ethereal voice from the demo is in here. And top tip, if you want to do that, grab one of the convolution reverb impulses, put it on your voice, and whisper. That's how you do it. And now you can do it. So that's really the entire, like, my segment of the pack. Yeah, just try them out and see what you can do that's unique to you with the samples. That's what I would like to see with the pack most. That's all from me. Melodic Riddim Volume 1 is out now on SPLICE, Chime, Ace Aura, colorful stuff. Go spend those creds. Bye.